All right, so it's Kentucky Derby week, everybody, and I've made a lot of money over the years playing the Kentucky Derby. One year I think I made close to $5,000, and it's because I have been following one man and his picks over the years. And we met when I was covering Bill Samuel's retirement at Maker's Mark. He is he to me he's the greatest handicapper in the world, and you can find his picks at Equibase. But I'm going to bring him in right now. Ellis Starr joining the Fred Minnick show. How are you doing, Ellis? It is so good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, Fred, it is great. It's a long time since I've seen you in person. I remember back in 2011 we first met and hit it off, and we speak all the time since then. And I just wonderful watching your career and everything you're doing. But this is, of course, the craziest week in racing. We have a saying in the industry: the greatest day of the year in horse racing is the day after the Derby, because things finally calm down. But it's wonderful to be back to normal, expecting huge crowds, hoping that it doesn't rain, which in the years where they had restricted attendance because of the pandemic, it didn't rain, but every other year where it's had full attendance, it does rain. But we're hoping that the weather gods will hold us okay for
So I
Derby
was
Day.
just I was just texting with Jim Cantori, the from the Weather Channel this morning. He said the Derby should be good. You know, we're looking at last I looked, we're looking at like 30% chance of rain. So I mean, if I'm betting, I like those odds. I mean, I'll take a little sprinkle here and there, but man, we've had some years where it got rained out. I felt like,
Yeah, it pours. And what's Churchill Downs' main track, the dirt, of course, with the Derby's run on, is a really good track. It dries out very fast. So if you
hmm
get some rain, even in the morning, it'll be fine by the afternoon. I think on Kentucky Oaks Day, which is Friday, it's always mandatory that it just rains. So we'll have to see. But we're expecting hopefully 70 degrees. It'd be wonderful and fantastic. And no matter what, the Derby is the Derby. It's the greatest 2 minutes in sports. And it's very exciting to be a part of it in my little way.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you are always a busy man. I know you're in demand all throughout this week, so I'm going to just jump right into it. Everybody, you can find Ellis's picks at equibase.com. You'll see the website there underneath his name. You'll also find his Twitter handle. Reach out to him on Twitter. He's really good at that. But I'm telling you, I have made a lot of money over the years. I mean, I actually come out on the positive side when I bet horses because I hit up Ellis all the time. So let's talk. You got 6 horses that you have already, kind of done your thing with. And let's talk about those horses and why you have them in your plays for the Kentucky Derby.
Well, the Derby is such a unique race. I know you and I have talked about it over the years because in normal races you have 12, and here you have 20, and there's 2 also eligible. So by Friday morning, if 1 or 2 of the main 20 withdraw, one of the other 2 will draw in. So it's going to be 20 probably no matter what. And it makes it very unique. They're all doing something that they've never done before. They've never run a mile and a quarter. And they're just going from boys to men. I mean, these are the equivalent of 15 to 18 to 21-year-old men. Someone's going to emerge. And there's also some traffic with 20 horses. They have a long run, a quarter of a mile to the first turn, but there's always some traffic, and some horses will get bumped and kind of lose it and just take their toys and want to go home. And some horses that want the lead aren't going to get it. And it's just very interesting. But you got to go on their histories of what they've done recently and kind of just think which horse is going to peak today. And with
Mm-hmm.
that in mind, I always do 6 for the Derby contenders and look for some value for betting. And thank you for the kind words about making money. I probably didn't follow my own advice because if you made money and I didn't, but that's good on you as we
Well,
all get kind of
you
sidetracked.
always have like these like alternatives for your wheels and everything. So
Yeah.
like I get the Ellis Starr stack, right? You send out the entire race day. It's what people pay for, and you'll have like what you call exotic bets, and I will take those horses that are in those exotic bets, and I'll do win play show across them. And while I may not win on the exotic, I still got the horses that you
Right.
love for it. So it's a
Yeah.
it, that's been my strategy with you is like you pick the talent, and I just and I bet everything you recommend, but I also do some win play show action.
Well, I mean, this is a race where you'll see the payoffs or the thousands and the trifecta, which is first, second, and third, and the thousands, and win, place, and show. You're going to get horses at odds you would not normally get. So it's always good to bet two or three. I say take the rubber band off the wallet for the day. Don't go crazy, but have some fun with it. So the horses we're talking about in this race, one of them is the favorite. But now that we always have 20 horses, we don't have any heavy favorites anymore. And this is a horse named Zandon, whose odds are 3-1, which means if you bet $2, you're going to get 8 back. So
Mm-hmm.
you're basically tripling your money. And Zandon is a horse that won the Toyota Bluegrass here in my backyard at Keeneland, our backyard as well. He's improving. So many of the horses nowadays are lightly raced. In other words, their trainers have plotted out a course for them over the winter and spring so that they don't hit their peak before Derby time. So Zandon's making his third start as a 3-year-old, and his Bluegrass race was great. He put himself in a position from 11th to second in a blink of an eye. Basically, that's an eighth of a mile. And that's the position you want to be in when they turn for home in the Derby. Normally, you've got to be in the top 3 to do any good, because even though it's a long stretch, occasionally you'll see like Mind That Bird and Super Saver, some of the big long shots come from way back, but most of them are in position. So Zandon's got that, I guess, simpatico with his jockey, where the jockey will give him a clue. He'll move up quickly. He'll be in position, and then he'll accelerate. He relaxed really nicely. He's moving in the right direction. He is the favorite, but it's a horse you may not bet to win of low odds, but you're going to use him in the exact, as we talked about, in the trifecta and those kind of ones. Then we'll move to a horse that I wasn't even going to consider until I looked at the race. And this will be on my analysis at Equibase, which is our race of the week, which is free. I do the full card for a small fee, but this is free. The Derby is for the world. And this horse is named Tis the Bomb. Not only a cool name, but
Mm-hmm.
he's a cool horse. A horse that last year ran most of his races on the grass, and he did really well. He ran second in the biggest 2-year-old turf race in the country, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Last year, the Breeders' Cup was run at Del Mar. It's going to be back at Keeneland this fall, the first week in November. And he ran big. And then they said, oh, well, let's try Derby, which they always do. So they try a horse on dirt. Well, he came back from a layoff, and he just ran horribly. And I was thinking about that race because he had won on the conventional dirt, which is Churchill Downs, had won last July in only the second race over at Ellis Park in Henderson. And I just kind of threw it out, and he redeemed himself because he came back and he's won 2 in a row now. And he was very impressive. You kind of think about, again, horses that run a mile and an eighth, how they're going to go an extra eighth of a mile. So you have to consider when you're watching the videos, I do, how I think they're going to run as well or better at a longer distance. Are they going to like it, or are they going to hit a wall like a marathon runner? And he did that. And he's a long shot. He's opening at 30-1. So there's one of your horses I know you're going to want to bet to win, place, and show on, Fred.
Tis the Bomb. I mean,
Tis the Bomb.
I mean,
Yes.
that sounds like me in college after I had White Castle or Whataburger, after a night of having too much bourbon. Tis the Bomb.
Yeah, no, and people will be saying that. They'll be saying he's the bomb, which
Now
happens to
you
be.
never recommend betting based on names. Like that's like against like your faux pas. So I'm wondering, like, did the name like draw you in a little bit, or is it truly the horse?
I've always been a fan of the name, but it's truly the horse. I mean, this horse actually is one of the horses that has the most races in the field. He's raced 8 times, which isn't a lot, but it's a lot compared to some of these. And he's won 5 times. So he showed he has the mental and physical ability to win.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a real cool name. The next one is a horse named Cyberknife, another cool name.
Mm-hmm.
And Cyberknife, for those who ever watch TV commercials, is a non-invasive way of treating tumors that was invented a few years ago. And someone decided to name a horse Cyberknife. And not only is he a nice horse, again, he's won 3 out of 6 races. Actually, 3. He's won 4 races, and he's won 2 in a row, including the Arkansas Derby, which is one of the major prep races for the Derby. And I like the way he won. Again, he responded. He was second with about a quarter mile to go. He's definitely going to have no problem with a mile and a quarter. He's by a newer sire named Gunrunner. And for those who don't know, Gunrunner won the Breeders' Cup Classic and earned a couple of $1 million. And these horses are really running well, just very well. So he's done very well. Gunrunner's got a number of horses in the sons and daughters in the Oaks and Derby. And Cyberknife is running. He's 20-1, which is odd because, as you say, a horse that wins one of the major 5 or 6 prep races for the Derby normally in another race would be 2-1, 3-1. But when you
Mm.
get 20 horses, you're going to have higher odds. So another great horse to look at, Cyberknife. And then we have Epicenter, who is the second, probably the second betting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Epicenter, again, cool name, I think. Um, he's won 4 out of 6. He's won 2 in a row. He'd be looking for his 6th win in a row if he hadn't lost by a head back in January. And he is run the furthest of any of these, which is 1 mile and 3/16, so it's just 110 yards shorter than the rest.
Mm-hmm.
So he might have a little edge in that regard. He learned, this is interesting for people that care about this. I know you like this kind of stuff. This is a horse that you have to train horses to relax. And
Yeah.
he always wanted to lead from the start in most of his races. And you have to train them because you can't do that all the time. And in his most recent race, which was the Louisiana Derby the last weekend in March, he just sat in third and relaxed and relaxed. And when the jockey said go, he just went. And he won pretty easily. The only knock on him, besides the odds are a little lower than I think are appropriate given his probability, is the fact that he's one horse that hasn't improved on one of the scales I use of like speed figures, how fast I ran. And the
Mm-hmm.
speed figure, just for those who are curious, and I think I've told you, it's just a way to put a number of times so we don't look at times because you have to compare horses running at Churchill Downs, Louisiana, and California, and Florida, etc. So his speed figures haven't improved during the spring, which you normally have to see, but that's not always a bad thing. But he's certainly a horse, again, you have to use in the exactas and trifectas. Another one that's going to be a long shot is Smile Happy. And Smile Happy is a son of a horse named Run Happy, who was a tremendous sprinter. Another horse making his third start of the year, so he's improving as he should, and it could be a peak effort for him. He was second to Zandon, and in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes, he made the lead. So he did everything he was supposed to do, but then Zandon ran by him. But he was still very clear, almost 4 lengths of the third horse. He's going in the right direction. What's really interesting for folks that like to look at programs, past performances for these kinds of races is the horse that finishes second in one of these 8 major prep races um, is always 3 or 4 times the odds of the horse that won, where you really shouldn't be. Let's just say a horse that won a race should be 3-1. The horse that ran second should be 6-1. But in this case, you've got Zandon's going to be 2.5-1, and Smile Happy's 20-1. They always get ignored, and that's an opportunity for us to capitalize when you make a bet on a horse like this. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
like everything there is about Smile Happy. And last but not least, a horse named Mo Donegal. Another horse
The
I kind of
Iowa
wasn't
horse,
interested
right?
in.
That's the one from Iowa.
The connections are actually because the Donegal Racing is based, I believe, in Iowa, and they own him. And Jerry Crawford, I believe,
Hmm.
had a lot of horses over the year. He's run third in the Derby. He had Keen Ice, I believe, and some other good ones. They always wear these emerald and green, so all Irish colors, emerald and yellow blocks. And he's an interesting horse. He was really good as a 2-year-old. He actually beat Zandon in the longest race for 2-year-olds they have, which is in New York, called the Remsen in the fall, which is 1.1 miles. And it's very tough to get a 2-year-old to win a distance race that well. And he won by a nose, beat Zandon. And then he must have had some physical injuries because he was off for 2 months and off 2 months again. But he came back and won the most recent prep in New York called the Wood Memorial. He just kind of grinds, which is not the best style for the Derby. You
Mm-hmm.
want a horse that's got a quick kick to put himself in position and then just go on. But he does do that. He is improving. This is his third start of the year again. I keep saying that's a pattern. And he's a shot. He's 10-1. So we've got 4 horses here that I mentioned that are prices 20-1, 30-1, 10-1 to go along with the 2 favorites, Epicenter and Zandon. That's how I'm going to kind of construct bets. As you said, win, place, and show bets on a couple of them. For sure, you could even bet 3 of them at 30-1. You wouldn't want to not bet one of them and have it win and pay $60. And then, play them in an exacta and stuff like that.
Where did Messier fall for you? That horse was like 8-1, I think, and
Yep.
it seemed like when looking through his pedigree, it kind of seemed like one of the horses that you would normally like.
Yeah, he's
Where's
definitely bred it. Yeah, definitely bred for the distance. And, I've got to draw all these lines in the sand. I'd say he's second tier. He was a top contender earlier in the year. He won or placed. He won 3 out of his first 5, finished second in 2 more. He was one of the horses formerly trained by Bob Baffert. And the rule
right?
was that the horses had to be moved to other trainers and they had to earn points under another trainer's name. Baffert could have nothing to do with it. And so he transferred to Tim Yakteen, who was a veteran trainer, and he finished second in the San Diego Derby. Now, the fact he'd been off 2 months and the fact that he was second and then led in the race and then got passed doesn't really mean a bad thing to me because he's going to improve. He just wasn't as fit because he hadn't run in March. He
Mm-hmm.
ran in February and April. And horses really need to run every month in their spring of their 3-year-old season. So I could make a case for him. He's first or second and 6 for 6. I wouldn't argue with anybody. If you wanted to put him in exactas and trifectas, I wouldn't argue for a second with Messier. I think because he's a little behind physically, I think the other horses can do better. In the Derby, Fred, I sometimes think to myself, and I say it out loud sometimes, and when I'm doing interviews, if most of the horses that have a good chance all improve about the same rate, then
Mm-hmm.
the horse that's already faster is going to continue to be faster. So, for example, I'll just use a speed figure. Messier had a 99 speed figure, and he's going to improve. But then Zandon had a 107 speed figure, and if he improves, it's going to take Messier a lot more improvement to run better than Zandon. And of course, there could be traffic and other issues. So I wouldn't argue. Again, 8-1, it's good odds. I think it should be about 12 or 15, given the fact that he is the seventh or eighth most likely horse to win.
Mm.
But I would definitely not rule him out. There's like 7 horses I think have very little chance to win, and the other 13 all have a shot, Messier being one of them.
Okay. Well, over the years, you have been my handicapper. You have treated me right, but when I don't have you, I go with that speed figure. Is that what's the one thing that you recommend people shoot for if they don't go and buy your picks on equibase.com, which everybody should, by the way. Go to equibase.com to check out Ellis Starr's picks. But if you had one tip for one thing to look for to pick a horse, what would it be?
Well, it's always horses are creatures of habit. So you always look for their races. Just look at the distance of the race, look at their histories. If it's a mile or more, look for races a mile or more. You want to see good races at that distance. So you just need to look at the finish position, the distance, and then the speed figure is last because the fact is the fastest horse wins. They could improve and run better, but in most cases, their histories will prove out. So the distance of the race, the success they've had, their finish positions in those races, and the speed figure. That'll land you on the contenders in most races.
Awesome. Well, Ellis Starr, you can find him at Uber Capper on Twitter and equibase.com. Go buy his picks. He is an awesome handicapper. Done me right over the years. I'm in the positive on all of my bets. And I still have a positive account on my twinspires.com. So I got a lot of money to play with this Derby. Let's
Let's
go
do
win
it.
some more. Ellis, always good to see you. Good to talk with you. Happy Derby, my friend.
Thanks, Fred. Happy Derby, and everybody have a great week.
Cheers, my friend. Take care.